I never planned to keep my success a secret. Growing up in a small fishing village in Thailand, I learned the value of hard work from my parents, who ran a modest seaside restaurant. But life had other plans, and those plans would lead to one of the most dramatic confrontations of my life. Lina, customer needs you. My mother would call out when I was 12, and I'd rush to help serve fresh seafood to tourists who visited our little piece of paradise. Many of them stayed at the luxury resort on the neighboring island, taking day trips to experience authentic local life. That resort would change my life, but not in the way anyone expected. One day, a guest named Richard Maxwell, a prominent hotel developer, tasted my mother's special tom yum soup. He was so impressed that he began visiting regularly, not just for the food, but to talk business with my parents. Your daughter has a gift for hospitality, he told them, watching me effortlessly switch between Thai, English, and Mandarin while serving customers. She understands both luxury and authenticity. Let me sponsor her education. My parents were hesitant, but Richard's offer was genuine. He'd lost his own daughter years ago and saw potential in me. With his support, I attended international schools, then Cornell's hotel administration program. By 25, I had an MBA and a vision to transform struggling island resorts into sustainable luxury destinations that benefited local communities. Richard became my mentor and silent partner. Together, we built pristine island holdings with me as the secret CEO. Let them underestimate you, he advised. It's your superpower. Then I met James Chen at an investment conference in Singapore. That's an interesting perspective on sustainable luxury, he said after my presentation, not knowing I was the CEO. Would you like to discuss it over coffee? Coffee led to dinner, dinner led to love, and 6 months later, we were married in a simple ceremony. James was kind, brilliant, and seemed different from his ultra-wealthy Chinese-American family. Then I met his mother, Eleanor Chen. A Thai girl? She said during our first meeting, eyeing me like I was something stuck to her Louboutin heel. James, darling, couldn't you find someone more suitable? James squeezed my hand but said nothing, the first of many silences that would chip away at our marriage. I kept my business success private, maintaining my role as a hospitality consultant while secretly running a billion-dollar company. Richard supported my decision, especially after seeing how Eleanor treated me. Things came to a head during the Chen family's annual vacation. Eleanor chose one of our resort islands in the Maldives, ironically, one I'd acquired last year. The presidential villa for us, Eleanor announced at check-in, and the basic beach cottage for James and her. She didn't even say my name. The staff, who knew exactly who I was but were under strict instructions to maintain my privacy, kept their professional smiles. Mother, James protested weakly, we can afford the villa. Nonsense. Eleanor cut him off. You need to save money now that you're supporting certain people. She glanced at me meaningfully. I bit my tongue and accepted the cottage. The staff secretly upgraded us to a water villa, but Eleanor's behavior only worsened. At dinner, she seated me at the far end of the table. During activities, she forgot to include me. Every interaction was laced with subtle digs about my background. It must be so different from your little village, she'd say sweetly. Do they even have electricity there? James would flush with embarrassment but say nothing. The breaking point came during an island-hopping excursion. Eleanor had arranged a private boat tour, making sure to remind everyone how expensive it was. We stopped at a small private island. My private island, though they didn't know that. It was under development with just a few staff buildings and basic facilities. Let's explore, Eleanor announced. While everyone scattered across the beach, I stayed behind to answer an urgent business call. 20 minutes later, I looked up to find myself alone. The boat was gone. My phone rang. It was James. Lina, he sounded panicked. Mother said you wanted to stay on the island for some authentic village experience and told the boat to leave. I tried to stop them, but what, James? I asked quietly. Mother said you'd insulted her earlier, that you needed to learn a lesson. I heard Eleanor's voice in the background. A few hours in her natural habitat will do her good. Maybe she'll finally understand she doesn't belong in our world. James's voice came back, weak and apologetic. The boat will come back before dark. Mother insists. I hung up, looking around at my natural habitat, the island I'd bought for $45 million last year. I couldn't help but laugh. Then I pulled out my satellite phone. Mr. Patel, this is Lina. Initiate Protocol Alpha on Paradise Island immediately. And please ask Richard to make some calls. It's time. Within minutes, hidden security teams emerged from the staff buildings. The island's hidden infrastructure hummed to life, and surveillance drones took flight. Ma'am, my head of security approached. Your helicopter will be here in 20 minutes. Shall we prepare the main villa? Yes, I said, a small smile playing on my lips. And contact resort security. When that boat returns, I want every person on it detained for trespassing on private property. Even your husband, ma'am. I thought about James's weak protests, his years of silence. Especially my husband. As the sun began to set over my little island, I watched the security monitors as Eleanor's boat approached. Time to show them exactly what kind of world I belonged in. And this time, I wouldn't be the one learning a lesson. The security feed showed Eleanor's boat approaching the island's private dock. Through the high-resolution cameras, I could see her smug smile as she prepared to rescue me after my lesson. Ma'am, my head of security, Kane, reported. They're about to dock. How would you like to proceed? I smoothed down my simple sundress, the one Eleanor had earlier called quaint village wear, and smiled. Let's give them the welcome they deserve. As the boat docked, armed security teams emerged from hidden positions. Eleanor's smile vanished as guards surrounded the vessel. What is the meaning of this? She demanded. Do you know who I am? Yes, ma'am, Kane replied coldly. You're trespassing on private property. Everyone off the boat. Now. James tried to intervene. There must be some mistake. My wife is on this island. Your wife, Kane said, is waiting for you at the main villa. Main villa? Eleanor scoffed. This is an undeveloped island. There's nothing here but... Her voice trailed off as the camouflage panels covering the hillside began to retract, revealing a stunning modern compound built into the landscape. This way, Kane directed, leaving them no choice but to follow. They were led up a winding path to the villa's grand entrance, where I waited in the open-air lobby. Richard stood beside me, a protective hand on my shoulder. Welcome to Paradise Island, I said calmly. My island. The silence was deafening. Eleanor recovered first. What nonsense is this? James, your wife has lost her mind. Actually, Richard stepped forward. Lina is telling the truth. As CEO of Pristine Island Holdings, she owns not just this island, but the resort you're staying at, and 12 others across Asia. CEO? James whispered. But, you said you were a consultant. And you believe that, I replied, because it fit your family's narrative about me, the simple village girl who married above her station. Eleanor's face had turned an interesting shade of purple. This is impossible. That company is worth billions. 4.8 billion to be exact, Richard supplied helpfully. Lina built it from the ground up. I should know. I've been her mentor and partner since she was 12. James took a step toward me. Lina, I don't understand. Why didn't you tell me? Would it have mattered? I asked quietly. Would it have made you stand up to your mother when she humiliated me? When she seated me at the servants' table? When she abandoned me on this island? I had tried to. No, I cut him off. You didn't try, he watched, just like you've been watching for 2 years. Eleanor suddenly switched tactics, her voice honey-sweet. Lina, darling, this was all a misunderstanding. We were coming right back for you. After teaching me my place, I raised an eyebrow. Let me show you something. I gestured to a large screen where security footage played, Eleanor instructing the boat captain to leave, laughing about leaving me in my natural habitat, making cruel jokes about the village girl finally learning her lesson. Congratulations, Eleanor, I said softly. Lesson learned. What? What are you going to do? She stammered. Well, first, you're all banned from every Pristine Holdings property worldwide. That's 36 luxury resorts you'll never set foot in again. Eleanor gasped. They were her favorite vacation spots. Second, I'm filing charges for endangerment and criminal trespassing. Abandoning someone on what you thought was an undeveloped island? That's a serious offense. You wouldn't dare, she sputtered. The scandal would destroy the Chen family's social standing. I finished. Yes, it would. Funny how karma works. James finally found his voice. Lina, please, we can work this out. Now that I know about your success. That's exactly the problem, I interrupted. My worth shouldn't be measured by my bank account. A real husband would have defended his wife regardless of her status. Richard cleared his throat. The papers have been prepared, Lina. Your choice. I nodded. James, you'll be receiving divorce papers tomorrow. Don't worry. I don't want any of the Chin family money. I have plenty of my own. Divorce? Eleanor shrieked. You ungrateful. Careful, Richard warned. Everything you say is being recorded. Haven't you embarrassed your family enough? Security began escorting them out. Eleanor's designer heels sank into the sand as she stumbled along, a far cry from her earlier confident strut. Wait, James called back. At least let us take the boat. I smiled sweetly. Oh, that boat. I bought it an hour ago. You'll have to take the public ferry, assuming you can afford the ticket. Later that evening, I stood on my villa's balcony, watching the sunset paint the ocean gold. Richard joined me, 2 glasses of champagne in hand. Your parents would be proud, he said softly, not of the revenge, though that was spectacular, but of how you've never lost sight of who you are. I thought about the small restaurant where I'd learned my first lessons about hospitality, about my parents who taught me that true worth isn't in what you own, but in how you treat others. The next morning, I called a board meeting. We're starting a new initiative, I announced, the Pristine Future Program. We'll identify promising students from local communities and provide them with education and mentorship in hospitality management. Like Richard did for you? Someone asked. Exactly. Success shouldn't be a secret weapon. It should be a ladder we extend to others. 6 months later, I stood in my childhood village announcing the program's first class of students. My parents beamed from the front row as 20 young people received their scholarships. Eleanor and James sent messages through mutual friends, attempting to reconcile now that my true status was known. I donated their favorite presidential villa to a children's charity instead of responding. The island where Eleanor abandoned me? It's now the Pristine Academy, training the next generation of hospitality leaders from across Asia. Students learn in the same villa where I revealed my truth, their dreams nurtured by the same ocean breeze that carried away my past. Sometimes I teach classes there, sharing not just business knowledge but life lessons. Your worth isn't in your wealth. Your power isn't in your position. Your strength isn't in your status. It's all in how you rise when others try to sink you. As for Eleanor, last I heard, she was blacklisted from every major luxury resort in Asia. Apparently, most high-end hospitality groups don't appreciate clients who abandon people on islands. Karma, as they say, has a reservation system all its own. And mine? It's fully booked with something far more valuable than revenge. The chance to transform natural habitats into nurturing havens for the next generation of dreamers. Because sometimes the best way to prove them wrong isn't to show them your power. It's to show others